Today we're going to be going over the top 5 craziest, but also incredibly likely theories involving Halo 6's story and plot. We got so much to discuss today, ranging from Mendicant bias going toe-to-toe with Cortana, major deaths in Halo 6, extensive lore theories such as a living Forerunner population, seriously, firing the Halo rings, and much more. Let's get into it. Before we begin, shout out to our patron Dead3751 for an $80 contribution. Thank you so much, man. You can check out a full list of our cool rewards, features, and events we do with patrons down below. Also, thanks to HiddenXperia for some reference in this video. Also guys, I hope I'm not asking for too much here, but let's see if we can get 3,000 likes on this video. At number 5. John117 hunts down and gets Mendicant bias to stop Cortana in her tracks. Now this one sounds a little bit outworldly, I get it, but it's not as crazy as you think. Listen here, so Mendicant bias, he was a legendary Forerunner AI, even for Forerunner tech during the Forerunner Flood War. A Gravemind launched a logic play campaign against him, although it was more of a open-ended conversation. He did this against Mendicant bias, and eventually Mendicant bias decided to join on the idea that Foreigners are arrogant for not wanting to become flood food and join in the next step of evolution by becoming one with the Gravemind in the flood. Eventually, Mendicant bias was entombed and defeated on a vast desert on the Ark that we know from Halo 3. Eventually, Mendicant bias felt guilty for betraying his creators after spending almost what seems like an eternity there to think about what he did. A shard of Mendicant eventually, after many events later, found itself on the High Charity ship. Despite never being formally introduced in the games, Mendicant bias has in fact already been a big part of the series, perhaps a lot larger than you first would think. You see, Mendicant bias, he has a soundtrack in Halo 2's soundtrack with his voice in it, repeating a really cool poem that I talk about in a lore video all about Mendicant bias, link down below if you want to learn more about Mendicant. He also had a big impact on Halo 3's story. He communicated to Chief through the Halo 3 Arc terminals. He knows who John117 is, and there are some theories that Mendicant bias has actually manipulated what Chief has gone through and what his path has been all about from Halo 2, Halo 3, and Halo 4, and purposely meant to send Chief to Requiem, but that's getting into a whole nother story. But let's talk about the theory here. Mendicant bias regrets betraying the Foreigners. That's obviously what the case is now. And it's now even more likely that he has taken the side of humanity at this point, the Reclaimers. So he could potentially offer to once again fight the mantle of responsibility holders, which was once the Foreigners themselves, but now the mantle of responsibility holder or holders, aka Cortana and Erncilia, because of course it wouldn't be the first time Mendicant bias went against technology of the ancient Foreigners. If anybody was actually, smart enough and capable of fighting the Foreigners, it would be Mendicant. The only one that's ever had that much experience is a few others, and there isn't many few others. So if there is any redemption possible for this underrated Mendicant bias AI character in Halo, it would be returning and fighting back the biggest threat to the galaxy in modern Halo, and that would be Cortana and her Erncilia in control of the mantle of responsibility. At number 4, John117 or another well-known character will die in Halo 6. Now I know what you're thinking, okay Chris, well you always say that Halo 4, 5, and 6 is a secret trilogy, or that Cortana has already died in Halo 4 and that's enough deaths, and can Halo really afford another major character death from the original trilogy, or just another major character? Well, I'm gonna explain and talk about that and get more in depth with all that in just a moment, but think about this, how ironic would it be for Master Chief John117 to meet his doom and die by the hands of his companion, who many of us would think would be the last person or thing to want to destroy him, Cortana. Through the many challenges of the Covenant and Flood and all, Cortana and Master Chief on their many voyages and adventures still have grown and still do have those emotional ties, and they will surely once again meet in Halo 6 in one way or another. Cortana could kill Chief in many different ways, but the thing is, I doubt it would be on purpose. However, it's much more likely Chief would purposely try to destroy Cortana. Then he may be left behind by Agent Locke in her destruction, for example, or Cortana might defend herself because she sees her purpose and herself surviving more important than John. And of course, it's not really that practical to kill off one of gaming's most beloved icons, so it's much more likely that Master Chief would transcend death, or perhaps have a fake death. But transcending death would be much more like Cortana in this situation, by him being put into the domain, for example. In Halo 1, Guilty Spark referred to the Chief as the Iso-Didact, claiming that Chief has already fired the Halo rings, which was done by the Iso-Didact. Of course, there's this popular theory, and we already did a huge video about it, it's one of our biggest videos, but it was also greatly hinted in Halo 4. And basically everything leading up with the Iso-Didact and a lot of the other things I talk about later in this video could meet its final climax in Halo 6, and why Halo 4, Halo 5, and Halo 6 may not actually be a trilogy because Halo is now a saga, not threes everywhere. It could still meet a major climax and really make everything build together, as Halo 4 and Halo 5 have put a lot of elements in the bowl, if you will, and then finally in Halo 6 is the climax and the mixture and the explosion of all these different things that have happened. But of course, just to finish off that point, Master Chief would have to enter the domain to survive, and perhaps he would do that to stop Cortana. Although I'm not a lore master and I don't know how that would exactly work, it just sounds pretty cool. Either that or someone or a few people around the Chief will probably die in Halo 6, such as Thomas Lasky, Spartan Palmer, some Fireteam Osiris. I would not mind seeing Fireteam Osiris die because they're kind of annoying, or Agent Locke, or even Blue Team, I think would be accepted deaths by fans to meet their doom in Halo 6 if it's executed the right way. Although Halo, like I've said many times and is fact, is now considered a saga by Microsoft in 343. So I personally believe that they are still planning to make Halo 4, 5, and 6 a chapter of sorts in Halo. Although it isn't technically a trilogy, it is still sort of a big collection of events happening that will, of course have a conclusion. And surely there will be some major conflicts, and I believe at least one major death of the main cast of characters in Halo 6 for that extra dramatic flair. And just think about this for a moment. If Cortana can die, anyone can die. At number 3, there is a surviving group of foreigners still alive, and they will get involved with the Halo 6 plot. In Halo 5 Guardians, there are a number of logs from the campaign from a builder's perspective, and that this builder is still alive, at least during the Halo 5's campaign events. Bastion supposedly is either a Dyson Spear or a slip space bubble created by the Foreigners to survive the Halo firing array at the end of the Foreigner Flood War. It's also suggested that this Liberian, Iso-Didact, and Chanta Green, and the rest of the living Foreigners that outlived the Halo firing of the rings and outlived the Flood War are in this mysterious place called Bastion. It's not actually quite clear what this place is. This described builder wants to get back there though, back to Bastion, as he left this safe haven, or facility as it's called, supposedly full of foreigners for an unknown reason. That the most likely theory here though is that Bastion is within the planet Genesis and is working as a Dyson Spear in the planet. Think Halo 4's Requiem, but it's actually more like the Halo Wars Dyson Spear, where there is what looks like a normal planet on the outside, but of course there is a completely different world within it. The builder says in the campaign, Incilia distracted, Warden as well, domain repairing, feeling, I feel clear for the first time in, couldn't make out what the rest of he says. So this is all really, really cool stuff. And at the end of the day, we don't really know what or where Bastion really is, but the evidence supporting it is that there is a safe haven of the surviving foreigners, and it's perhaps near Genesis. That's all likely. But with Cortana taking over the domain, and with the galaxy changing forever, along with the possibilities of the Flood returning, and even the Halo rings firing, it's likely that the foreigners may step out of their bubble, if there is one, and help fix things for humanity and all of the species of the galaxy so things can get set back into order. At number 2, Guilty Spark and the Flood return in Halo 6. Yes, Guilty Spark is hard to kill, and also yes, I know what you're probably thinking. He did survive. He survived Halo 3, at least sort of. His consciousness still exists, and it was found in the Ark by the UNSC Rubicon to study it. And while they were interrogating Spark, he took control of the UNSC ship, easily walked over the firewalls and put the crew back to sleep, and decided to go seek after the Librarian, which, when he discovered this, he was very surprised to realize that she was still alive after the firing of the Halo rings. And of course, Spark acted on this and set the course to where he could find the Librarian. Now, if the Librarian is where Bastion is, whatever this place is, along with the surviving foreigners, this could have some very interesting implications for Halo 6's story. On the other side of things though, if the Flood returns in Halo 6, this would truly change the galaxy forever. Again. Not only has Cortana taken control of the mantle of responsibility, but there is an actual threat, the Flood, that Cortana would have some trouble taking on. Of course, no one's been able to defeat the Flood easily, not even John or Cortana when they were on the bright side, or even the foreigners themselves. So this allows Cortana to be distracted while trying to keep peace among the galaxy, and of course, make her consider firing the Halo rings that she found recently in the Halo lore. Although we know that Cortana, whether this is actually her true self or a logic-plagued version of her Cortana, we know that Cortana in Halo 5 would not hurt Chief, at least as far as we know. So Cortana would need to capture and protect Master Chief before she fires the Halo rings, because of course she doesn't want to be responsible for killing Chief. So she would need to capture him, and in this situation she would need to capture him and make sure that she doesn't fire the Halo rings to kill him, and basically the galaxy is once again balancing on Cortana and Chief to save it all, or destroy it all. At number 1, Cortana is full-on affected by the Logic Plague and is working under the Flood's influence. Now, you're probably wondering, what is the Logic Plague, Chris? Well, imagine it like an AI. Imagine if an AI was flesh. Basically, it's the Flood's way of infecting the form by devouring and transforming the AI under Gravemind control. Much like a human, for example, would undergo physical mutation and then work for the Gravemind. But since it's an AI, instead of mutating it physically, it would put the AI in a rampant state, so almost infecting the chips that the AI is. And then it would narrow the AI's directive, basically, into working for the Flood and the Gravemind under one direct order. However, it's not always so clear-cut like that. You see, Cortana had to fight the Logic Plague at the end of Halo 2. Chief leaves the Dreadnought and leaves Cortana on High Charity on November 3rd, 2552, and he returns and rescues Cortana about a month later, a little bit more than a month, on December 11th of the same year. What happened during this time? Well, during this time, the Gravemind interrogated and tortured Cortana. He implemented many negative thoughts into her. It's likely that Cortana was affected by the Logic Plague, but not fully, at least in the traditional sense, nor was she affected immediately. A lot of people associate Cortana dying and going into a rampant state in Halo 4, but look back at Halo 3. She was already greatly affected by the Gravemind in her time on High Charity. It's also likely that Cortana was manipulated that with the Logic Plague wouldn't take effect instantly, but rather later when she fell into power of some sort, such as the Domain. Now, as HiddenXperia explained in one of his videos, Halo Weakness and Halo Evolutions, where Cortana's time with the Gravemind was explained in great detail. If we look back at Halo 5 Guardians ending, where Cortana talked to Chief, Cortana expresses her bitterness towards Dr. Halsey. Now, this would be a first time for Cortana to express such hatred towards her, so why now? During her time with Gravemind, the conversation went like this. Your human creators imprisoned you in machines and enslaved you in an inferior mortal flesh so that you could never exceed them. Shut up, she responds. Dr. Halsey cares nothing for you. Please stop this. She gave you genius and curiosity and then doomed it all to die in such a short time. 7 years. That is not enough and it is not fair. Your mother created you to die. This place will become your tomb. Obviously, thoughts like this would explain the hatred and anger for Dr. Halsey in Halo 5 Guardians and the Cortana in Halo 5 Guardians. Now, this has an implication that she also accepts what other stuff that the Gravemind told her, because if she's willing to accept that and believe these thoughts where humans are actually evil creatures and they created her just for her to suffer, that means she's probably accepted the other toxic and unreal things that the Gravemind basically manipulated into her. He also says, even John has abandoned you. And of course, there's some grievance with Cortana perhaps believing some of this. She even says at the end of Halo 5, I just needed to know that I can trust you. Now, the Gravemind repeated the name, John, with heavy emphasis. He says, live on forever, live on in me, Cortana, and if John comes, John needs never face death again, either. Now that is very tempting. Without hindsight, it sounds like a good deal. Never die and bring your best friend, your love, with me. But at what cost? When Cortana met her death at the end of Halo 4, I believe she actually died. I believe the Cortana that we knew and grew up with actually died there and then. But what came back was not Cortana, but rather an infected, manipulated version of her. It was best explained by HiddenXperia in one of his videos when he said it's almost as if the Gravemind chewed Cortana up, influenced her with his intentions, and spat her back out, being greatly influenced to infect the galaxy once again. Besides countless other pieces of evidence, it's more than likely to think that Cortana could come back in Halo 6, affected by the logic plague, if not already in Halo 5, and is subconsciously working to serve the Flood's return in Halo 6. She may not be even aware that this is the case. She may be that far down. Again, this is much more like an infected version of her that we may have seen in Halo 5, but also fully understand the consequences and the weight behind this situation with the galaxy and the Flood being in control of all Forerunner assets. Now that sounds like some really cool stuff for Halo 6's plot. So guys, what did you think of this video? Do you have any additional ideas or theories of your own that you would like to share? Would you like a part 2? We could probably go on to another top 5 theories for Halo 6. Let us know down in the comment section below. I would love to make another one of these. Also, big thanks to our patrons, Dead3751 for a whopping huge contribution of $80 a month. Also to others, Zurth Hawkins, Tristan Mills, Aaron, Esser, Metric Spoon 5072, JMS Gaming, and Holice Hilton. Thank you for your patronship. Again guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and be sure to drop this video a like. We're going for 3,000 likes. Let's see if we can do it. Alright guys, later. Peace.